Okay, so I'm going to prove vertical angles theorem. So it basically just says that if you have any two intersecting lines, A, B, and C, D, they intersect at some point E, we want to show that the vertical angles are congruent. So I'm going to show that this angle right here is congruent to this angle right here. Now, to do this, you first want to understand the theory, right? So the theory goes as follows. This angle plus this angle form this line. So then that means that whatever this angle is plus this angle must be 180 degrees. So again, this angle plus this angle form this line. So then that means this angle plus this angle is 180 degrees. Similarly, this angle here, again, this same angle, plus this angle forms line AB. So then, therefore, this angle plus this angle is 180 degrees as well. So then that means, let's label these angles something simple, 1, 2, and 3. 1 plus 2 is 180, and 2 plus 3 is 180. So then that means 1 plus 2 equals 2 plus 3 as angles, right? So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3. Now you subtract the measure of angle 2 on both sides, and you get that the measure of angle 1 is the same as the measure of angle 3, which is what we're trying to show. Now, we got to fill in the details. So you have to make sure you understand the theoretical idea here before you begin writing it. Now let's write what we have. So the first step is to say that measure of angle, let's say, AEC plus measure of angle AED is equal to 180 degrees. Because, why? Well, they form, how do you know this? They form line, what? They form line CD. And then you could also say that the measure of AED plus the measure of angle DEB equals 180 degrees because they form line AB. Then, now you have that this is equal to 180 and this is equal to 180, which must mean that they're equal to each other. Things equal to the same thing must be equal to each other. So this is equal to 180 and this is equal to 180. You could say by substitution, you have this resulting equation that the measure of AEC plus the measure of AED equals the measure of AED plus the measure of DEB. And then you should see that the measure of AED is on both sides of this equation. So you could say by subtraction, and you want to, it's nice to show that subtraction, that you minus measure of AED on both sides. AED. And of course, anything subtracted from itself is 0. So this is 0 and then this is 0. You're left with the measure of AEC is equal to the measure of DEB. And then, now you're not quite done yet. We really went through the theory. We just need to make sure that we go through our definition. So we have that the measure of two angles are, the measure of two angles is equal, right? The measure of two angles are equal, right? This equals this, okay? And if the measure of two angles are equal, then they are called congruent. So you could say by definition of congruent congruent angles, angle AEC is congruent to angle DEB. And you're done. Now, just to make sure that we see what we have here, we wanna see that I showed AEC, this angle right here, is congruent to this angle right here. I ended with the conclusion, right? The last step is the conclusion of the original statement. I started with just this, okay, and I ended after making this argument with this. That's the whole idea. Okay, and I just showed that this angle right here is the same as this one. And I could run through a similar argument, or pretty much the exact same argument, to show that this one is the same as this one, right? And this is saying vertical angles are congruent.